Hello, welcome to another episode of The High Ground, powered by Premier Companies. Jeff, how are you doing this morning?
I'm wonderful, Sal. Yourself?
Doing wonderful.
Good. Who you got for us?
Well, we have somebody close to home, our very own Environmental and Safety Director, Jerry Boger. Welcome back. It's been a while.
Now we got
Been a while.
to straighten up, not do anything dangerous.
Yeah.
Well, before we get started, we got the question of the day, Jerry, and I don't know, this is probably a bad one for you. Me and Jeff can probably name off several things, but tell us about a project around the house that you've been procrastinating on.
Well, I feel bad saying this, but you know, when you live in a house long a period of time and you fix up and you do all the renovations and you do several things, painting the whole house is due. And yeah, you could do room by room, but when you have an open concept, once you start on the wall, you end up painting 3/4 of the house. And I'm dreading that day. I know it's coming. It doesn't look bad. Most people probably don't notice it. And that's the reason why I'm kind of a neat freak or something. So it's like, I just dread that. And I love painting. I don't mind doing that. And as tall as I am, being 6'6", I usually don't need a ladder unless I cut the ceiling in or something. But yeah.
Jerry would be he would be a good neighbor to have. Painting the house is not in the top 1,000 things that's probably on my mind.
I'm one of the few, other than professional painters, that probably love doing that.
Yeah, I think I'd rather take a beating than paint.
I would too.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I had a house project that I put off for years, and it was replacing some what they call exhaust fans in the bathrooms. They were quitting, and I just needed to replace them. And I kind of looked into it, and I was convinced that they're outdated. It'll be a major project. I probably can't. I'll get in over my head, so I kept putting it off. Well, finally one day I was like, I got to do this. I ordered the little replacements, and it took literally like 5 minutes to replace. So
Really?
I ended up replacing them all. And it's like, okay, I could have done that the first time, but I did. I put it off for, I mean, we fought it for a few years before I actually did it.
And they just plugged in or
Oh,
something?
yeah, just plugged in, popped into place.
I have no projects that would turn out like that.
I kept thinking, it's like, okay, they're going to blow up, or something's going to go wrong. But no, they're great.
You think you're going to have to re-drywall or do
I did. I thought put whole new ones in, recut, because you couldn't find the exact size. And they're fine.
Nice.
I would have dropped the cover or something. It would have broke or something like that. Well, mine is, I hate to admit this, right now, currently, we got one of those reverse osmosis. We have well water. Mm-hmm. So we've got, it's a process. We got softeners and sediment filters and UV lights. And then finally underneath the sink, there is a 5 stage, I don't know how many stages, but reverse osmosis and, for the drinking water and the ice. Anyway, the little fountain thing, which probably is about a $30 little separate water fountain that comes out of the sink, it's dripping and leaking and needs to be replaced. And but it's not leaking underneath. It's only leaking on top, and so far it's all dry, and I hate plumbing. I hate plumbing projects of any kind. And I just know I got to dig all that RO unit stuff out just to get there, and laying upside down under the sink.
Invite Jerry over here. He's a good painter.
Oh, he is
plumbing. I'm with him on plumbing. You go to the hardware store and you pick up every possible part with you and then take it home. I had another plumber tell me that, because they've got it all in their truck, right? Otherwise, you're making several trips.
And then have you ever noticed that you can't find all those little elbows and T's that you need until after the project's over? You'll find a whole bag.
Yeah.
Yes.
The box.
Yeah.
I bought 2 of those last time.
See, Jerry's obsessive compulsive enough that if he came over just to visit, he would look at it, and if I had it sitting there, he would have to install it. I know he would. Well, Jerry, let's get back on topic. So you have got a lot of responsibility keeping all of us safe and trained and up to date with our compliance and making sure that we know what we're doing. What's some of the things that you got going on right now in the world of safety and compliance?
Well, this time of year, spring, we're gearing up to get ready to get into the fields and making sure all of our current existing long-time veterans, I guess you could call them, as well as the new hires, are trained on different things. And most importantly is we carry anhydrous ammonia. The farmers, that's one of the good values of N for the crop, for the corn. And so we have several facilities. We try to keep training on an annual basis. It's like every 3 years, I believe, on required, but we take so much pride in showing how important it is, and we try to have it every year for our employees. And then the other thing that I started, it's been several years ago now, offering that ammonia training for our local fire departments that would potentially respond in those areas we're in. Or not just us. If there was a competitor in that area, I feel like the product is the type of product that it's the most dangerous product we carry and we handle. But if you handle it correctly, it's a really safe product. And just making them aware and how to respond to a vehicle crash or an infield incident.
We don't think about some of this stuff, like even gasoline. When you fill your, I mean, there's safety precautions with that, and it's got its own hazards, but we handle that every day.
Right.
And but what's some of the things that I guess about anhydrous ammonia that makes it hazardous? What's some of the things about it that people need to be aware of, and that you train the fire department and employees on?
Right. So it's going to give you that pungent odor, just like the cleaning ammonia cleaner. But the biggest component is it's so pure that it gives you like an inhalation hazard. It seeks out moisture. It attracts to moisture to offset itself. So whether you get it on your skin, it's going to constantly seek moisture in your skin, or burn your eyes. So this is where it's really bad, that if you see
or your lungs.
Correct. Right. Breathing. So that's the biggest thing that we try to tell both our community as well as our customers, as well as the fire department.
I know from time to time they'll come out with new regulations for a lot of different things. Are there any new regulations coming out this year or coming down the pipeline that you see for ammonia or any other products we handle?
Not really. The biggest one is the data plates on our storage tanks. That's coming up in 2030. By then, if we are missing a data plate, we're either going to have to go through a requalification or we're going to have to scrap the storage tank. There is some things out there, working with the Office of the State Chemist at Purdue. They're able to come out, and if they've got good, accurate records, and kind of like the U1 form of the data, it's like the birth certificate of that storage tank. If they have that on file and they have good past history of inspections of that storage tank, and then go through a process, they may be able to recertify it and get a legible data plate installed on the tank. So that's a big plus that we found out in the last 10, 12 months.
That's good, because those tanks they're insanely expensive.
Yeah. And if you just use it for ammonia and there's not been any air induced to it or anything like that, the insides of the tanks are most generally pretty clean and really good, for as corrosive as that product is with some metals. So
good.
Yeah. What type of when you have the fire department out and you were talking about doing some training, I imagine you do some classroom and some out at the equipment. And what type of I guess containment, or what do you tell them?
I just kind of give them some properties and characteristics of the product, the boiling point at -28, and tell them how quickly it expands. And when you see that plume, it expands, I believe it's 740 times the property. So if you lose a gallon, it's going to expand. The vapor cloud is going to be 740 gallon of vapor. It's going to be a larger vapor cloud.
740 times.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So a good analogy of that, and we've all seen it if you've been in rural roads, and you've seen a farmer side dress or knife it into the ground, and then when they get to the end, everybody calls it smoke, but it's the white vapor that comes out, and you just see a little trail. It doesn't last very long, and then it dissipates rather quickly because it's it's freezing the air molecules in the atmosphere, and then it dissipates when it gets equal in pressure or temperature. But it's probably only a few drops that leaves that 5-6 foot vapor trail that comes out. It's not they didn't lose a lot of product. It's just a few drops that will cause that.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and that's the biggest thing I think the fire department takes away from that. And then the other one is, water is what will help neutralize it. So, and you don't want to put a heavy stream on it. You want to put like a fog, you open it up and have like a fine mist. And then depends on the outside temperature and the weather and which way the wind's going. If there's no wind at all, I've seen fire departments where they've tried unintentionally combat it, where they'll put too much on one side and they'll actually
Start moving
that vapor, So you really, they've got to take all that in consideration. So, and it's good. We just did a tabletop with the local fire department out of Cortland, and the whole community was involved. This was about a year ago, which was really good because they did a mock accident right in front of the elementary school. They had some students. This was on a Saturday morning. They had some students that played like they was injured, and they had a scenario already drawn up. And we were kind of involved with it because I got a breakaway training trailer that I have access to from another co-op that let us borrow it. And we're able to at least give them support and then do a lot of training. And then it even had the EMTs involved. They had the hospital involved. They simulated like the call going in from the school to the emergency 911, and then people at the hospital started getting on standby because they knew they had maybe potential casualties or people that's been all through the inhalation process of it. So it was really eye-opening. It's even to the point where they did a press conference at the very end, and they had some news media there asking really strong questions and dealing with the media. And if anybody's ever seen that on TV, it's not as easy as you think. And so it was eye-opening, and it was really good, a really good scenario and really good tabletop.
Wow. That's there's a lot to that. I mean, you don't think about what all's involved just with the training, because out in the country, it's mostly volunteer
Right.
Firefighters, right. And there's new people probably coming on a lot.
Yes.
Folks retire and take different roles, and sons or daughters come in and they take over the responsibility. You said one time you give facility tours while not just Anhydrous, you try to.
Right. We try to promote having a facility tour. And like you said, a lot of our fire departments where our facilities are located are in rural Indiana or rural areas. And those local fire departments are a lot of times manned by some farmers, some of our own customers that come into our buildings, but they may not everyone from that department come in. So we like to have, everybody come in and look at it to be able to tell exactly what chemicals are located in which building, where's the main kill switch to cut down the power, shut the power off. And then there's certain buildings we don't want water on it because it would create a more environmental concern other than just letting it burn versus putting water on it and having
overflowing a dike or
contaminated water getting off the property and then having an issue. So
sure,
trying to protect the community and the environment that way. So yeah, it's good. They raise a lot of questions. A lot of times they'll suggest different things like numbering the building, or making sure we have the safety data sheets and a facility map close, by the road. So when they come on the property, or giving it to them ahead of time, so they would already have it in their system when they pull it up on their tablet when they're responding.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
What about just for kind of the non-ag public that, that they see the ammonia wagons going down the road or across the field, but they don't really know anything about it. And you talked about, you can see that little white puffy, coming, behind the knives when they're putting it on. What if there was an accident and they see a big white plume? I mean, there's some things they can do. One, don't go near it. Don't drive through it. I mean, is there anything else that they?
Most of the time, that'll depending on the type of release and what's happened, But most of the time, if they would just shelter in place or get upwind, if they're downwind, most cases it's out far enough that if they just shelter in place, shut off.
But they'll start to smell it.
Right. Yes. They'll start to smell it and just cut off all the ventilation, HVAC, depending on what, and it's going to be mostly in the summertime. So shut the air off and just shelter in place and they'll be fine. And then usually the emergency response people and with the help of us, kind of orchestrating that, will respond and make sure the valve or get things shut down as need to be or get the tank out of the way.
Do the firefighters those masks that they wear for smoke and when you see they're fighting the fires and they're all masked up, but are those same clothes effective, or do they have to have a different type of
It
mask?
takes a special cartridge for now they're wearing a air pack, okay, the fully kept SCBA air pack, so they're fine with that but if it was a respirator, it would take a special cartridge.
Oh,
Now their turnout gear, we usually instruct, they're fine with that, providing they don't get right in the plume. You got to have a fully encapsulated hazmat suit if you had to walk up in the white cloud to shut the valve off. But most of the time, if the fire departments would tape around the cuffs of their arms, around their gloves, and around their ankles, so the plume wouldn't kind of migrate up inside their uniform. Their turnout gear would be fine, especially if another firefighter is putting on water in that area and they walk in with the water. And so that firefighter is knocking down with the water. He's knocking down the little vapor that could be there to where they can reach up and turn the valve off. The other critical thing is their gloves isn't good to do that. So the first thing we usually do is if we show up and they're there, I'll hand out 2 or 3 pairs of ammonia gloves. They're insulated, with a felt interior, and they're impervious of real heavy rubber to where you can get up and you can turn that off right in the plume. So that protects them. Their gloves they wear, like leather gloves, that wouldn't be good.
well, there's a whole series of different types of valves and redundancy with ammonia this it very rarely happens.
Correct.
I mean, if you think about what are some of those?
There's all the valves. They've got an excess flow valve that's down in the tank. So if something would shear, they're made to close, and there'd be just a small release coming because there's a little opening in the little disc orifices. But a lot of the other equipment, the pop-off valve, and the hoses are all dated, and they have to be replaced by a certain date. And like I mentioned earlier about the Indiana State Chemist, they come around about once every 18 months to 2 years to do an inspection, and they check those, as well as I go around to our own facilities and check those to make sure they're getting swapped out properly, and the hoses. So there's a lot of safety features built into the equipment handling this product. And like I said, it's a very safe product. I know what I've said so far sounds really scary, but handled correctly and respected in the way we transport it, it's really safe.
I know we had, I can't remember if this was last year or 2 years ago. We had a local farmer pulling a couple wagons down the road, got over too far, tanks rolled over. And so basically he turned over 2 tanks going down the road and they skidded. But it was great. All the safety stuff worked.
Yeah.
The cages on top that protect the valves, so
Yeah.
no valves are broken off. So it's always you hate to see accidents like that happen, but when all the safety stuff works, it's awesome.
Yeah. And the other one, kind of along with that, when I do this training with a lot of fire departments, and like you said, they're constantly getting new members of the department. And so we try to do this every other year, if not every year. It was just a year or two ago, there was a farmer pulling a wagon. He got over, let a vehicle go by on a narrow county road. And as he started, something jerked and he laid a wagon over on its side and it popped the valve on the wagon. The fire department that had been through my training had showed up, and they immediately, I got video and pictures. I didn't make it there in time. They had it all done and taken care of, and the wagon got uprighted and down the road. And but they did everything correctly. And I was pretty happy that
You were proud of your people.
Exactly. Yeah. They were good students and listened well through all their training, not just mine, but yeah.
And what is a pop-off valve?
It's a pressure relief valve. So it's made to be and it's kind of like what's on an LP tank. It's made to be in the vapor space. So when the tank builds up pressure, we fill the tanks to 80%. And then that gives 20% room in case of temperature change. The product is so cold and we transport it as liquid and we apply it as liquid. But when it gets to that boiling point is when it is releasing into the atmosphere and it's transferring over. So that pop-off valve is like a safety mechanism per se. So if we fill the wagons like today, when it's 20 degrees out, and then we don't use them until it's 70 or 80 degrees out, there's going to be a lower pressure increase, but it's not going to be enough to where it's going to set that pop-off off.
Very good. Are there any other future safety initiatives coming for Premier Ag that you have in mind, or don't let the cat out of the bag yet?
I tell you, I've noticed in the last 10 years, just like anything else, regulations have gotten more stringent in several ways, for the good in most cases, for both the employee, for the company, and as for the environment and general public. But I don't know of anything right now that's coming up that's they've had a couple Indiana new ammonia laws that it's now in place. And those are actually, the Indiana ammonia law was even more stringent than what the federal regulation is. So, I mean, this Midwest has really looked really hard on taking care of the product, the employees, as well as the community and the environment.
I think we got a good system in place. I know there's some things going through the legislature right now where they're looking at taking some of our regulations and making them into law. And so there's people on both sides of that looking to make sure that, hey, we're doing a good job of with the regulations. Do we need it to be a law, or
right?
Not from a standpoint of trying to get around anything, but that impacts. Okay, once it goes to law, does it fall under somebody else's guidance, and are we properly funded everywhere we need to continue to be safe? So those are things I know the ag industry is watching.
Yeah.
A little different topic, but same product. It seemed like 10 or 15 years ago there was a problem with theft of anhydrous. I mean, I guess in making drugs or meth manufacturers. That doesn't seem like it's. Have we got fencing and videos now that it's not as?
Yeah, I say that every once in a while we'll get a hit, but it's not as bad. They've moved on to something that was more economical for them to use or get their hands on to use in place of meth. So fortunately, because there was a time where I was getting those calls between midnight and 4 a.m. inevitably where law enforcement has gone into one of our facilities and we had something leaking and there was drug paraphernalia laying out there where they was trying to steal it. So, but no, since then, knock on wood, it's
very good.
Been good.
Okay. Anything else, Jeff?
No, I know it's with all the ice and snow, we've had slips, trips, and falls. I know you guys have been talking to our employees, especially about getting salt out and stuff. I've not heard of any accidents, so you guys must be doing a great job.
Yeah, I really don't want to talk about that, but
okay.
I've learned long ago, you don't
knock on wood.
Yeah, knock on wood. I'm real superstitious. You don't talk, the CEO always asks, how's things going? And I was like, oh, we're great, but I don't want to say that, too loud, type thing.
Jerry's got a job where his name's, I think, on every door, or
every emergency sign.
Yeah, every emergency sign, and he's always on duty, it seems, and we appreciate you being there for us and keeping us safe and being there in case anything does happen. But thanks for all you do, Jerry.
No problem. Thanks.
All right. Well, that's another episode of The High Ground, powered by Premier Companies. Thank you all very much.